checked, I realized that there was no pulse.
Dramatic action at a funeral. Watch a politician's life-saving move as ZNS cameras roll.
My government remains faithful to our commitment to explore all lawful means to acquire the majority interest in the company.
The Prime Minister meets with the top man from cable and wireless.
We had a patient referred to internal medicine or surgery or pediatrics. We were unable to contact those physicians.
And how did yesterday's blackout affect you? The Bahamas Tonight starts now.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Keisha Adderley. Thanks for joining us. The issue of majority share in BTC was the subject of talks between Prime Minister Perry Christie and cable and wireless officials yesterday. Amidst a government investigation into the unprecedented nationwide telephone shutdown yesterday, Clint Watson tells us what came out of the meetings over the divisive issue centered around the most profitable state-run company.
The government is very clear on its position regarding the sale of BTC, and Prime Minister Perry Christie conveyed that decision to the CEO of Cable and Wireless, the parent company of Lime, who has 51% ownership in BTC, during a private meeting at his office on Monday.
I have indicated that my government remains faithful to our commitment to explore all lawful means to acquire the majority interest in the company.
The Prime Minister has requested a report which will give the Cabinet a greater understanding of what took place during the sale. ZNS News asked Mr. Christie about the tone of the meeting.
When you're speaking at the level of the chief and the chief of the company, and you're speaking at the level of the chief of the country, you would expect to be very civil, very cordial, and in fact it was. It is what it is. They have their position, I have my position. I've just won the general elections. One of the principal approaches we took during the general elections was that we would move to do what we said we would do, and I'm now in the process of doing that. And the country could readily expect at some stage in the future to have a report and an accounting from me with respect to that issue.
It has been speculated that should the government proceed to reverse the BTC majority sale, it could cost the public purse a pretty penny. And given the country's present financial position, just how feasible is this?
I'm not speaking to timing in this issue. I'm speaking to the principal position that we have taken on behalf of the people of our country. And so I'm not concerned really about the state of finances and its relationship to the decision we have made and to the process that now ensues in my discussing it.
As to those of you who have been waiting to become shareholders in the company following the announcement by the previous administration that a public offering could come this year, the Prime Minister says decisions will have to be made, but nothing is being ruled out.
The former government had made a decision to liquidate some of its 49%. And we stayed that decision until such time as we could have an approach to the major shareholder based on our electoral commitment.
And while all talks are now in the infancy stage, Prime Minister Christie says whatever decision will be made in the best interest of the Bahamian people. Clint Watson, ZNS News.
BTC says less than 24 hours after it experienced one of the worst outages in its history, the company's engineers and technicians have completed repairs, restoring service throughout the country. BTC CEO Jeff Houston said in a press release issued today that BTC engineers and technicians worked around the clock to mount a massive campaign getting all systems back up and running, and that all systems were back on track by 4 p.m. today with only one small trouble area. That spot, Houston said, was was intermittent interference in calls from a landline to a mobile number, and that experts were expected to resolve that challenge shortly. BTC says it's leaving no stone unturned in investigating the causes of the failure of backup operating systems that should have kicked in following a power outage. BTC said a separate issue which affected customers in Abaco this morning has also been resolved, and service was restored to the Northern Islands. In other news tonight, the F&M in a press release today says for a government which campaigned on the promise that it would be ready on day one, the travails inflicted continually upon the Bahamian people by BEC are inexcusable. The release says it is inexcusable that BEC's electrical generating plants are chronically short of fuel, and that a full board of directors for BEC with a chairman hasn't yet been announced and constituted by the government. However, Prime Minister Perry Christie confirmed today that a chairman has indeed been appointed to head that corporation. Here's what he had to say.
I have indicated that Mr. Leslie Miller will be the new chairman of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. We have meetings going on now, this morning, next week, when we will complete the boards on schedule, as is this case in June, where they all must be appointed, and we engage in that process, and I am now coordinating that process myself with respect to ensuring a timely completion, and that we have taken the right approach to a broad array of people who are eligible for selection.
The F&M also expressed concern about what it says are great inefficiencies which have plagued BEC over the past several weeks. A statement from the party said yesterday Bahamians suffered through the second unexplained island-wide blackout in as many weeks. They say this time the absence of power and telecommunications became a national security concern. Well, you can imagine the implications of not having phone service. Well, today we visited several operations to find out how they fared when the phone system went down. Here's Giovanni Stewart.
There was no noticeable disruption in power supply at the Princess Margaret Hospital on Monday during that island-wide blackout, as the hospital's emergency generators kicked in immediately. But Chief of the Accident and Emergency Department, Dr. Colin Bullitt, says the down phone service, which was nationwide, caused a major delay in medical care.
We were unable to contact the referral services. In other words, if we had a patient to refer to internal medicine or surgery or pediatrics, we were unable to contact those physicians, as we normally use cell phones to contact those doctors. And so as a result, patients weren't able to be referred until the phone system was restored. And so it wasn't until about 6 o'clock.
In the tourism epicenter of downtown Nassau, the businesses we spoke to say their generators also helped to offset the electricity challenge. But sales representative at the linen shop, Tiffany Eldon, and assistant manager of Pink Flamingo, Madeline Avrilian, say they shared a common problem.
Credit card system was down, and as well as our computer system. So we weren't able to get credit card sales, and we had to do a lot of writing down our sales.
We were unable to get any authorizations from the bank, whether calling or getting an authorization through the machine.
How severely would that have impacted your sales yesterday?
I would have said about 50% loss of business due to customers wanting to use their credit cards instead of spending their cash.
Of course, no phone service means lower phone card sales, as vendor Altmees Benamy confirms.
Break my business up because I ain't sell nothing from yesterday. Because then when system done, when people say they don't want to buy phone card, they can't put the phone card on, they can't use the phone, that's why they don't buy no card. Plus the system break people every week. They need to fix that.
Giovanni Stewart, ZNS News.
Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson says the threat of more cases being thrown out of court makes swift justice an imperative. She was addressing the Senate budget debate yesterday when she spoke to the deficiencies which threaten the administration of justice. Janaea Noel Ferguson reports.
The Attorney General revealed the startling state of affairs in the legal system, noting that it is unknown exactly how many criminal and civil cases are before the courts. Senator Maynard Gibson telling the Senate that the Attorney General's office also cannot say how many people are currently out on bail for various offenses.
indications are at the moment that there are more than 400 people out on bail having been accused with murder, charged with murder. More than 400.
Now, to ensure accurate figures and to make the bail statistics public, the Attorney General says an audit is currently being conducted. But she explains how the system fails when lawyers appear before several judges on a bail hearing.
Lawyer A goes back to the bail office. Another file is opened. Not the same file, another file is opened. The lawyer then goes to Judge 3. And they might get bail. You know why? Because Judge 3 has a new file. He doesn't know that Judge 1 turned down the bail 8 weeks ago.
To avoid corruption and promote an accountable legal process, Senator Maynard Gibson announced the new government's hopes to reintroduce a system canceled by the former administration, which will track cases.
Will prevent, because the entire system will be integrated when it is working, it will not allow a date to be set down involving a lawyer where there is a conflict with that lawyer somewhere else in the system. That would be a very significant advance.
Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS News.
There's a good count regarding murder that State Minister for National Security Keith Bell is highlighting. Up to Monday, June 18th, it marked 9 consecutive days of no reported homicides in the country. Senator Bell says this is proof that progress is being made in the war against crime.
As at today, for the first time in a very long time, albeit for the entire year, there were no reported homicides in the country for more than a week. There were no reported homicides in the country for more than a week. Something that the former administration could not boast about. And we've only just begun. I invite, Mr. Vice President, my colleagues opposite, to join us on behalf of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to express our sincere thanks to the hard-working members of the uniformed branches for their tireless effort in this war on crime.
Now, during his contribution to the budget communication, Senator Bell also added that the Royal Bahamas Police Force will receive the lion's share of the $132 million allocated for the Ministry of National Security. Also in the pipeline is a heads of National Law Enforcement Agency made up of a director, Defense Force Commodore, Commissioner of Police, Controller of Customs, Director of Immigration, and Superintendent of Prisons. Well, leading off the debate for the opposition was Senator the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, who said, while we should be thankful that no lives were lost, that statistic given by Senator Bell is not exactly cause for celebration. He added that despite claims by the government that the FNM administration left the country in shambles, the numbers coupled with admissions by the Prime Minister included in the speech from the throne say otherwise.
Prospects for the Bahamian economy will continue to hinge on the future growth of the U.S. economy. But, you know, we were being told, forget what's happening in the U.S. Forget what's happening in the world. We Bahamians, we could make sure that this economy do well all by ourselves. This is what was being told to us. You are using the U.S. economy as an excuse. You are using the recession as an excuse.
Yes, speak.
You made the recession worse.
Yes.
But that's not what your Prime Minister is saying, in my opinion.
Thompson also addressed the government's position not to increase taxes this fiscal period. He charged that the government intends to make it more expensive for businesses by discontinuing the offer of business license exemptions for small businesses with a turnover of less than $250,000 a year. Well, still to come in the Bahamas tonight, a woman passes out at a funeral. See what happens next coming up.